Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today. You are listening to Society Bites Radio. My name is Jillian Beth. I am an intuitive healer and coach on a mission to empower women by reconnecting them to their inner wisdom. And I'm so grateful to have you all here with us today and to have the amazing Yesi back. She was on last week's show as well, and she brought a special guest, which was a lot of fun. We spoke about breaking through limiting beliefs using NLP. So if you didn't catch that episode, go back and listen. And on this one, we're actually going to be talking about the same topic, NLP, but this time letting go of your anger and resentment using NLP. So I'm super excited for this show. A little bit about Miss Yesi, in case you missed the last one. She is a first generation born to Colombian parents who immigrated to San Diego. She works as a business startup coach. She has a real estate investing business with her husband and runs Baja Adventures with Yesi, a Baja Adventure Experience company, and is a personal results specialist as NLP Coach, timeline therapy, and hypnotherapy practitioner. She loves to travel, explore new cultures, meet new people, and have new experiences, especially with her two fur baby rescue pups. She has a passion for connecting people, serving others, and empowering promoting individuals, especially those with similar upbringings. She thrives on making a positive difference and helping individuals break through their limiting beliefs to go after what they are truly passionate about and live their soul's purpose. Welcome back, Yesi.
Thank you. I'm so humbled. I always love being on your show and just all the things that we get to discuss and talk about and share. So thank you for having me again.
Yay. I am so happy to have you back. I do love our conversation. So if you wouldn't mind, for anybody who didn't listen to last week's episode, could you give us a quick description of what the heck is NLP if somebody out there doesn't know what it is?
Absolutely. So this would be a good time to maybe get a piece of paper and a pen to take down some notes for those of you who don't know. So I'm going to just break it down very simple so you can understand it at a very high level. So the neural part of the neurolinguistic programming is just how does your thinking work? How do we process our thinking? This is your senses and to really understand what is happening around you. So really all of the experiences that we go through happen at a conscious and unconscious level. Mm-hmm. And this is really derived from all of our senses and our central nervous system. So we want to be able to understand it at a neurological level. And so when we go through really training at the neurolinguistic programming level, we break down all of the neurological, scientific, really, how does the mind work so we can better understand it. Linguistics, this is your words. This is the way that we use language. How does it influence you? And also, how does it influence all the people that are around you, right? Communication is key. And we all communicate differently. And again, I think, we see it in today's world that communication is one of the biggest things that we struggle with, right? Being able to not understand each other. And so we really go through and we break down the mental process that are coded in our minds. We help organize and then give meaning. And so we can transform different words with different people because you now can understand how the mindset and linguistics operate together. And then finally, programming. This is your behavior. This is the way that you organize all of your ideas, like all of the actions that you're going to do on an unconscious level. And so all of the results that you create in your life, whether they're expected or unexpected, all happen at the unconscious level. And so we really go through and we acknowledge what the behavior is. And we go through and then we start to reprogram the behaviors at a neurological level. And so we can really speak into the unconscious mind. So we can reprogram the patterns that are in our life and the sequences that are in our life and programs like, limiting beliefs and the things that we tell ourselves so we can then achieve the results that we want to achieve. So it's pretty deep when you really go through and you start learning about these things. And so for me, it's been able to really help me understand the mind. I've always been intrigued with how the mind works, but I didn't understand it at this level. And so I needed guiders, right? Just like all of us, we need coaches, we need experts to come in and teach us. And so I had the opportunity earlier this year to step into NLP at a deeper level in understanding these different facets. And so I had the opportunity to go through a 7-day live training certification program where we break all of this down for 4 days. We spend just going through understanding NLP. And then we also understand what it looks like for you specifically. So it's a lot of, we practice going through the emotion. So let's say we're going through anger or sadness or hurt or guilt. We now will practice and we'll go through taking those emotions apart. And like in the first show, Tara was talking about, it could take up to 15 minutes. Now, I will share my personal experience. I was raised in a family where anger was very prevalent. Like my dad was a very angry person. My sister was a very angry person. And so for me, I correlated anger with them. And so I always told myself, I don't want to live my life with that type of anger. And so when we got to anger, which is the first one that we need to go through, and when we release emotions,
Of course.
I had a really hard time because I'm like, I'm not an angry person. I like to live my life positive and be happy. However, on the unconscious level, I had that anger. However, I had to look at it in a different mindset. I then now learned through going through this process, it took me more than 15 minutes because, again, I was so far removed from it and it was so deeply rooted at the unconscious level that I had to go through this exercise actually about 4 or 5 times with my practitioner. And so what started to come up for me was that I was frustrated. I was frustrated that I wasn't getting the result that was at task. And so the master practitioner came, trainer, and she was like, what emotion is coming up for you right now? Because you can't get anger. You can't get angry. And I was like, well, I'm really frustrated. She was like, well, frustration is anger. And I was like, oh, got it. So once I started to kind of see that, again, how my mindset was operating, I now was able to now say, okay, great. Now this is how we go through and start releasing these angers and emotions. And so for a very long time, I was living in a space, I would say for the last 4 years, very angry and very resentful internally, but I wasn't aware of it. And so I was operating in a place from fear. And that takes a toll on your soul.
Absolutely. And I want to interject here real quick if I could, Yesi, because you're touching on so much here, but I just thought about the awareness part when you said, having that awareness. And I thought, wow, how cool, because the L I get in LLP, language has always been a big thing for me as I've continued my personal development growth and working with a lot of individuals through coaching. It's like the language we say has so much power and energy behind it. And often we use language quite flippantly, in my opinion. So that part I get. And now hearing part of your story and how that awareness came through the connection of the simple word like frustration and linking it to anger was so profound to you. And
Absolutely.
that's where I guess that P, the programming part, comes in, right? Where we get to use powerful language to reprogram the mind. If I'm thinking of NLP, like I'm looking at the letters and almost doing it backwards, right? It's programming through language, the mind. Is that somewhat accurate?
Absolutely. Right. And so that's exactly what it is right. We break down the layers. So then that way we can now start, okay, now we've cleared out what no longer is serving us and holding us back from living really prisoner to our past and having that internal frustration, internal anxiety or stress or guilt or shame. that's not allowing us to move forward. And we say now, okay, great. Now we're going to speak into the unconscious mind. And that's where timeline therapy, hypnotherapy now helps bring it all together. And so that's where what we specifically do at Recalibrate 360 is we go through and we break it down so we can create that awareness. We now work on the mind and really healing what is going on, and then now the hypnotherapy will now go through so you can now reprogram and move forward. So it's very powerful work when you do it in that. There's again, people teach NLP. I mean, we have Oprah, Tony Robbins, Warren Buffett. You'll see a lot of people who have achieved high levels of success use NLP in their work, the way they do their business, the way they operate in their lives. And so for us, as we're, if we're new to it, we don't really know what direction to go through it. So we teach it all together because we believe it's much more powerful to, close the loop at the end. If we leave it open, then, we can go in different directions. And so that's why our training, we took a 22-day training and we put it into a 7-day accelerated program. And so our students come to us and, we're like, look, just like when you're in an airplane, right? You have to take care of yourself first before you can take care of anybody else. So we actually attract a lot of coaches, a lot of entrepreneurs, leaders, people who may be in sales, really all facets. And we say, you know what, you're going to take your coaching hat off or your entrepreneur hat off for right now, and you're going to focus on you first. And for me, like, I'm a coach first, so I love to serve and help other people. But what I was noticing is that all this anger and resentment of things that have happened in my life were starting to take a toll on how I was coaching. And so now I started to feel guilt and shame that I wasn't serving my students and my clients at a very high level. And so it was like the divine universe was like, nope, Yesi, it is time that you really take that coach hat off. And so when I walked into the training, the trainer was like, Yesi, you're taking your coaching hat off and you're just going to be a student. Like, do this for yourself. And that was so hard for me to be able to say, hey, let me focus on me and what's going on inside. Now, going through the 7-day training and working with people, now I'm able to say, okay, great. Every single one of us needs to take the time to be able to pour into ourselves. We hear it so frequently, right? We can't serve from an empty cup. We truly have to pour into ourselves. And this was the first time, I would say, in my life that I allowed myself to not feel guilty and not feel that frustration of like, okay, why am I not achieving the results? Well, it was because I wasn't pouring into myself. And I know we had a show a couple of months ago where we talked a lot about, like, right, once you serve more people, you start to really feel that drainage. And so now I wrap it around and I loop it back to, like, a lot of these things that were happening in my life were at a neurological level, and it's just reprogramming my mind. So,
oh my gosh, yes. I love what you said there. And it makes me flash back to one of the first coaching programs I took where I thought, oh, this is going to be great, right? Like, I get to go learn about this stuff. It's going to be fun. It's going to be awesome. And I quickly realized doing that type of work is hard. It's freaking hard because it brings up all your shit. You get to put shine a bright light on the areas that most of us ignore or try to hide. And it really is about, like you said, that awareness. And when you say that, I think of like the aha moment, but I also picture in my mind this flower opening up. But, we have to then, once that's there and that awareness comes, what are we then filling it with or replacing it with or bringing it full circle or closing the loop, I think is how you read it. Because if we do keep it open, like having the awareness is one thing, but then what?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where we do have other levels of training